esports in the game. Why did I sound like Mario just then? In today's video, we're checking out a mod that completely transforms F1 24 and takes us back to maybe a time period where the F1 games actually used to be good, because this is the F1 2020 revival mod. Oh man, seeing this special anniversary intro F1 had back in 2020 brings it all back, brings the memories back of a very odd time in the world, of course. But look at this. I mean, some of these guys look like absolute fetuses of themselves. I'm looking at you, Lando. Oh, good times. Seb in Ferrari and Hamilton in that all-conquering Mercedes. This is going to take us back to some good times, especially if any of you guys newer Formula 1 fans. This year may have been your first year of getting into Formula 1, so this will be a nice little trip down memory lane for your first year in F1. Not for me, of course. I'm old. The real nostalgia came when we tried that 2012 mod, which, by the way, that mod and this one, made by the same creator, absolute legend. I'll link it down below in the description, because it is just so damn well made. I mean, even the menu, the splash screen alone is getting me hyped. It did in the 2012 mod, and in a weird way, this design's even cooler for F1 2020, this revival. I mean, it's getting me pumped up. I mean, way more than the default F1 24 cover. And just as we load into the main menu, I think it'd be incredibly rude if we didn't cue the 2020 game music. Oh, take me back to a better time with the F1 games, please. And there we are. We rewind to 5 years ago with Aston Martin on the Red Bull overalls, the SSF Ferrari hashtag on the little neck strap of the Ferrari, and Hamilton there. He knows he was slapping this year. Also, very cool, the F1 2020 logo's been put in place of the 24 one, top left. Almost tricks my brain, you know, to say, no, we're not playing this terrible current F1 game, and they're actually back to the GOAT. So those are our 2020 revival team liveries. Of course, before we get into a race, just having a little look around the mod and the different changes coming through. This time actually starting with the cars rather than the drivers and the overalls, because I think the cars are really the bigger interest point here. The old Red Bull, to be fair, not a lot has changed, to be honest. If this is the sign to Red Bull to, you know, come on, lads, start to mix things up, then this is it. Really, the only difference going on here is Oracle on the side pods and Aston Martin no longer being there. Apart from that, this well could be the 2025 Red Bull livery, honestly. Moving over to Mercedes, the first year they were in all black. Gotta be honest, this black Mercedes doesn't hit as hard as it did back on the 2020 chassis. That chassis was beautiful, in my opinion, and it just worked with the black as well, the way that it silhouetted the shapes. Whereas this generic My Team car that all these cars are on, very bulky, very blocky, but it's still pretty slick. There's something to be said about the simplicity, and I like the Mercedes chevrons, you know, all along as they were in small, rather than the bigger ones they do these days. Ferrari, very plain, very plain livery. Honestly, in 2020, because of that whole private settlement with their engine in 2019, it seems like they were having like a McLaren 2018 vibe with their car. Just a distinct lack of sponsors and really any sort of design going on. I mean, to be fair, it's Ferrari. They don't really need the sponsors with the amount of money they get from just being who they are, basically. But not fond memories, I don't think, for any Ferrari fans. 2020 was a very difficult year. A very much firmly midfield Ferrari is never really a great thing to see. McLaren, now this was a livery that did change a considerable amount from 2020 to where we are now. Obviously now very much lacking this massive swash of blue on the side pods. I guess they've had it on the front wing or nose cone a little bit in recent years, or 2 years ago in 2023, but yeah, very much ditched the side pod and the engine cover blue. But I gotta say, you know, on this current, more modern chassis, this livery actually works really well. Really well, actually. It's probably the first one that's translated probably the best across generations of cars. We're talking differences. I mean, this is the biggest difference going. BWT Racing Point F1, i.e. what Aston Martin is now. This was an entirely different era for this team. But you know what other car looked great in every scenario was the Renault. The Renault 2020, arguably still, in my opinion, is one of the best looking, kind of like that period, modern era Formula 1 cars before 2022, of course. So that last final bit of F1 cars, I think this is one of the prettiest designs. Williams, I almost forgot what Williams' design was, to be honest. This was, oh, you know what? This was the season, wasn't it, where before the season got delayed, they had a sponsor of Rocket, and it was a very different, very interesting, in your face, a lot of red and blue, wasn't it, in the pre-season testing. And then over the break, they basically pulled out of sponsoring Williams, so they end up with this very bare bones car, and obviously it was a very bare bones season for Williams. AlphaTauri, I mean, I wasn't really a massive fan of this livery back in 2020, and it doesn't really look any better on this chassis, to be honest. Alfa Romeo, though, I was a fan of this livery. I still am a fan of this livery. Got a bit samey because they never changed it up, but for good reason, I guess, because the base livery, the concept was very nice. You know, white blending into the red. The Alfa Romeo logo works perfectly going from the white to the red on the engine cover. And again, like with the Renault and McLaren, I think this one fits quite nicely on this chassis. And then finally, Haas. I would say, you know what? Add that up to the 5th car, I think works well. So I think 5 of the teams, they could transplant their 2020 livery on today's cars, and it would work very, very well. Quite bare bones Haas, though, right now. I'm glad they're finally getting more and more sponsors as the years go on. Now, let's look at the overalls. Probably a little bit less interesting as it was in the 2012 mod, but still nonetheless cool to have a little look back down memory lane. I say memory lane, it was only a couple of years ago compared to the other one, but and actually nice to see. You'll actually notice they've got their old helmet designs from that year. So Perez had a bit more pink on there. Lewis had the purple. Oh, you know what? I forgot Leclerc's design in 2020. That was really nice. It's a shame. If you guys noticed, recently he showed his new helmet for 2025. He's gotten rid of his CL logo. It's like a more kind of, like, I guess easier to read logo. But I actually really liked his origami style logo. And it worked really well like this, when he did like an origami kind of pattern all over the top of the helmet. Sainz, obviously, here in Ferrari, he was in McLaren for this year, but this would be his final year before he moved into the Ferrari. Lando with his original Flora helmet design, and Oscar Piastri obviously wasn't yet in Formula 1, but he would be on the way, of course. And at this point, he was in the Alpine family. Like how Alonso wasn't even here on the grid, but here he is in the 2020 revival now, alternate universe of ours. Lance Stroll, still here. Those overalls, by the way, they're a choice. They're certainly a choice. Ocon back in the black and yellow Renault, and Gasly. Ooh, that helmet. Oh, you know what? That's a really nice variation of Gasly's helmet. To go with yellow and black with his 2020 design. I love that. Williams with a bare-bone car, very bare-bone overalls. Kind of generic My Team design almost. At least they have a like-for-like replacement from Latifi to Sargent. AlphaTauri, yeah, I again, just no. Alfa Romeo, I mean, Raikkonen should have been there. Bottas is the next best thing, really, in terms of kind of fitting the vibe. And again, this is much better than the Kick overalls. So much better. And then K-Mag and Hulkenberg, I mean, they're at home because obviously they were Haas drivers in F1 24. On top of this, also got to say, this mod comes with additional special liveries that you can install with separate files. So you've got the Ferrari 1000 Grand Prix edition with that really dark maroon, scarlet red. The Ferrari Mission Winnow version of it. Who remembers Mission Winnow, or Win Now as it was memed? Mercedes pre-season livery, which is obviously just the original Silver Arrow livery design. And then also the Renault and Williams pre-season liveries before we had the delay in 2020. But it is now time to get into a race, and where better to come than Austria, where we had 2 races here to kick off the 2020 season. And I'm going to be stepping into that gorgeous yellow Renault and driving as Pierre Gasly, simply because I actually love that helmet variant so much. So as well as visuals for the 2020 car liveries, overalls, helmets, or alternate versions of certain drivers' helmets, we've also apparently got the transplanted sounds of F1 2020 back into this game. So if you're not a big fan of the F1 24 engine sounds and you like the 2021s, this mod is certainly going to be up your alley. Oh yeah, that combo of car and helmet, beautiful. And the sound, the 2020 Renault engine sound. as I nearly miss. Lights out, and we're underway. Bit of a slow getaway for the Alfa Romeo as we try and make an overtake on him. And Hulkenberg dive down the inside. Yeah. Austria, ferocious as ever. Bloody hell, rear end steps away from me quite a fair bit as we go down 2 positions. Can we retake Albon? And bloody hell, look at Tsunoda go. What has gotten into the F1 24 AI today? 3 wide ahead, Ricciardo on the left, Russell in the middle, Tsunoda on the outside. Oh, as I'm trying to overtake Bottas. God, these guys are on it. This is the most aggressive I've ever seen F1 24 AI. Literally, this is what happens when... What is going on? You put a couple of 2020 skins on these guys, and it's like we're playing a new game. I do not remember F1 24 AI being that aggressive. I say remember. I literally just played this game a couple of days ago for our normal main career series. So I don't know what has gone on. I don't think there's meant to be any sort of performance mod or AI modding with this mod. It's purely visuals. You know, I mean, it could be a massive placebo for the computer AI. I don't know, but they're really going for it around Austria. To be fair, Austria always is a bit of chaos. You know, it's a 5-lap race as well, so we're all on low fuel, so maybe that's the reason as we take it easy. Hamilton down in P12. That's how you know we've still got the 24 performance, because if this was actually 2020 performance, the Mercedes would be absolutely tearing it up at the front of this grid, but instead we see Hamilton in the black Mercedes struggling in the midfield here as we try and struggle with the rear end of this Renault. But it's just an absolute joy to drive in these colours for this team again. Oh, what is not a joy is the rear end stepping out. This thing is very loosey-goosey. I think I've been absolutely spoiled by what my Toyota was driving like in the career mode series. We're back to base level F1 24 cars, but you know what? I'm enjoying the change of scenery. And can we make a cheeky dive on Lewis? Maybe even Russell. Both Mercedes might be had. What is Bottas doing in P10 of the Alfa Romeo? Does his AI think he's driving the Mercedes from 2020? What is going on? I've never seen the kick Sauber that high up in F1 24. Where is this when there were Audi in my series? Also, by the way, you'll notice, as well as the engine sounds, we've also got icon changes. So it is Renault on the top left. The Alfa Romeo badge back next to Bottas's name there. And Tsunoda with the AlphaTauri logo. Much better than Visa Cash App, RB, Racing Bulls, not totally Red Bull incorporated. Right, catching Bottas. Both got DRS, but we've got the performance. Not got the brakes, just about slowed it. Oh, you know the weirdest one is seeing that that pink dot of Racing Point. That's actually the weirdest one on the UI. And we're coming up to Stroll, so we haven't even got to see the BWT or the McLaren close up in action. Hopefully we'll catch up to them. We've still got 2 full laps after this one, so I'm confident we can make our way through a little bit and see some of these cars up close. Right, getting on the back of Tsunoda, gonna get him to the inside. Really squeeze him out into the apex. And then we're on to this scrap with Stroll, who I'm going to catch napping as he is very slow in the BWT Racing Point. That's a mouthful to say whilst you're racing. And now we come up to Lando in the McLaren. Obviously, it was a great first race for him in 2020. And like I said, along with this Renault, the McLaren, one of only 5 cars, I think really works with the 2020 livery on the 24 generic chassis. All right, this might get a little bit messy on the last lap as we're all very close together and a DRS train is forming. That's how you know it's F1 24. Oh, the Ferrari goes defensive. Oh, Alonso breaks out. 2x2. Can we get like a switchback going? Easy. Get the power down. Getting very up close and personal with that McLaren on the left. Getting a good look. Can we cheekily go down the inside of Fernando? Yes, we can. Squeeze him out. That corner was contentious in 2020. And we make it a very solid top 6 for Gasly in the Renault. If this was 2020 Law Acura, that Ferrari, I'd be catching it like nothing. That thing was an absolute dog in a straight line. But instead, we just apply all the pressure. Oh, you know what? Good stuff. That Ferrari was awful off the line there. Lovely. And so there we have it. A little bit of fun with the F1 2020 Revival mod. Always nice to pretend like we're not playing F1 24, even just for a little bit. If you have enjoyed it, be sure to hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.